Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I am back with my initial reaction and review to House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 10. This is the finale of the brand new spin-off series, and obviously it was incredible. Very action-packed. Typically Episode 9 was reserved for the really big episode, and then Game of Thrones finales typically wrap things up, and they're typically slower. But this season really flipped it on its head, and it ended in such a dramatic way. I can't believe we have to wait another year and a half to get a look at Season 2. In terms of just the episode itself, I was blown away. Once again, the cast is amazing. The music, hearing the classic Daenerys Targaryen type music from the original Game of Thrones score was amazing to hear. Plus the cinematography blew my mind. There's things that they do with certain scenes, and it's just how you shoot the camera that tells the story in the most effective way. For example, at the end of this episode when there's silence and we see Daemon walk in and we see him take Rhaenyra by the hand and we see Rhaenyra walk towards the fire, her leg collapses. She tries to hold herself upright, and this is her finding out that her son died. And then she turns around showing that now she means business. Now we have a real war, and this is the beginning of a Dance of Dragons. The way that was shot told us everything we needed to know, and it did it in the most effective way, in my opinion. Obviously, I have to talk about the dragon fight. The way that they used the dark, very differently than how they did it in Season 8, Episode 3 of Game of Thrones, when it was black and you couldn't even see the Night King. This one, they used lighting strategically. That scene where you see Luke on the back of Irax, and we just see the silhouette of Aemon's dragon, Vhagar, appear behind him. It's an amazing shot. And it was shot in a way where I was like on the edge of my seat the whole time. Especially when, since they're fighting in the rain and the lightning, to have Luke come out above the clouds and then we see the blue sky and the sun. I just think it was so beautiful and over the top. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. I thought the scene was amazing. I think Luke died very quickly. But anyways, before I get into the details of that, I first want to talk about Rhaenyra. Now, last episode we spent a lot of time in King's Landing, and now in this episode we're spending most of the time in Dragonstone. And we started this episode in a pretty positive place. As far as Rhaenyra is concerned, everything is going well. She's in line to be queen. She has a discussion with her son Luke about Driftmark, and she has a baby that is on the way. And in a matter of moments, she finds out that her father died, which is someone who means so much to her because he's always had faith in Rhaenyra. And then to top that off, she ended up having a miscarriage. And that scene was absolutely brutal and gutting. I guess they did it to really show what the character's going through. I thought it was a really powerful scene where Rhaenyra was strong enough to deliver the baby herself, and then she was strong enough after that to wrap her own child. And I would draw this connection to her dad, Viserys. Everything was going well with him, and then his wife and his son died. And he had to bury his son. And during Rhaenyra's calling, she is going through the same thing her father did, so these stories kind of mimic in a way, which I think was kind of interesting. Another thing I really want to point out with Rhaenyra is because she values her father so much and has learned so much from him, that she refuses to launch the kingdoms into war. She doesn't want to shoot first. She wants to be queen of the seven kingdoms and unify. She doesn't want to be the person to start a war. So a lot of this episode, she is sitting back. She's dealing with the loss of her son. She's being with her family. And behind her back, you have Daemon kind of being proactive, sending out ravens, assuring alliances, assuring their fleet, really getting ready for war. And that's when everything becomes real, when this guy comes from King's Landing and delivers her father's crown. And that's where the story kind of comes full circle, and Rhaenyra accepts her place as queen. And we see her really lean into the route of peacekeeping. It's reassuring alliances. She needs to fortify her alliance with the North, the Vale, and the Stormlands. And we see Corlys again, and it takes him a bit, but he ends up supporting Rhaenyra Targaryen, so she now has his fleet. And also the guy is such a baller that he basically owns the Narrow Sea. So they're now going to control trade coming in and out of King's Landing. So that is huge. But with that, you do get some points of contention between Daemon and Rhaenyra. Daemon I find fascinating because there's parts of him that I love, and then he strangles Rhaenyra, and I'm like, what the heck, dude? I didn't expect him to do that, even though he's done crazy things before. But the real point of contention between these two characters is Daemon thinks she needs to act, because it is the same thing that he went through with his brother Viserys. Daemon made it very clear that he thought Viserys was a weak king, and he had to be by his brother's side because he would get walked all over. And Viserys did get walked all over. And I feel like he sees that a lot in Rhaenyra. So while he's trying to prepare everything, prepare the dragons, prepare the fleet, she's just not willing to do so. But then that's the main catalyst, is she decides to use her sons to go and get allies. She sends Jacaerys north to the Vale and to the north, and we're going to see that next season. And then she sent her younger son Luke to the Stormlands. And that's what's sad about this whole thing, is Rhaenyra really tried to do everything right. She even had her son swear on the Seven, which isn't traditional practice, but she did it because it's becoming more and more common in the streets of King's Landing. And she assured them that they're going in not as warriors, but as messengers. So to her surprise, I completely understand that she is completely pissed when she finds out her son, and that's an understatement, that her son was killed. And this is 100% going to launch into war. And season 2 is really going to be the start of the Dance of Dragons. And then the other character I really want to talk about is Luke. May he rest in peace. And come to think about it, in this episode, they did focus a lot of time on Luke. We opened up with him in the beginning, where he felt like he couldn't inherit Driftmark. He can't sail a ship without being seasick. But then Rhaenyra had that nice scene with him, being like, you know, my father believed in me, and he mentored me, and I'm going to mentor you. And it was a powerful scene. And it was constantly throughout this episode where Luke wasn't up to the task, where Luke was fighting with his brother. And Jacaerys got angry with him, being like, what are you doing? Because he's not combat ready. So all of a sudden you have this kid who is trying to learn and has the weight of the world on his shoulders being thrown into a real life situation. And this is the realest situation this kid has ever been in. And to be honest, because of the way they set it up, I was on the edge of my seat, being that kid, feeling overwhelmed, not knowing what to do. This kid had to fly in the rain, find Storm's End, and go and barter with the Lord. And that Lord didn't even stand up for his father's oath, because King Aegon is offering Lord Baratheon a marriage, and Luke had nothing to offer. And that's the thing that's interesting, is that he's just the messenger. He couldn't marry off one of Daemon and Rhaenyra's children, and he wasn't willing to wed himself because he was sworn to one of Daemon's Valyrian children. But then he had to stand toe-to-toe with Aemon, and that guy's terrifying. Seeing the sapphire in his eye was nuts. And clearly he holds a grudge. He wants his eye, and because he doesn't do it, Aemon hunts him down. I don't know what Aemon was expecting to happen, but it seemed like he didn't actually want to kill him. But the chase scene was intense, and I noticed the show tried to take blame off of Aemon, and is really trying to play it down the line, where it wasn't Aemon who killed his cousin, it was Vhagar. Essentially, they were trying to tell us that Arax and Vhagar weren't really listening, and they were essentially fighting each other, and because of that, Vhagar ended up killing them both. So we'll see what ramifications that has in the future. I don't know what Daemon is going to say when he returns to King's Landing. Obviously, the news has traveled, but I don't know the details of how would they know how he died. I'm not sure. It seems like the closest person to know would be Lord Baratheon, because he saw them getting heated within his halls. But other than that, I don't know. But all in all, that was a great start to this series. It seems like, based on what George R.R. Martin said, this series is going to last approximately 4 seasons, to tell it correctly. And this first chapter of this series was amazing. And I love all these characters, and I'm really excited that we get to spend 3 seasons now with the same actors. So that'll be really nice. But those are my thoughts on this episode. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.